Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VeryReasonablePilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, is my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Gloff. How are you doing today, Jacob?
I am content, Charles. How are you?
I'm Felice.
Oh, you remembered the word.
Yeah,
Good job. Proud of you.
I remember the word. Italia. They were talking about Italy. How they elected a Mussolini.
Sort of.
Recently, they elected a Mussolini a few weeks ago.
They did. Not the Mussolini.
No, but a Mussolini.
Yeah.
And just so happens, all the trains are on time.
Anyway,
right,
I got
about
TV
shows.
Yes, TV shows.
Is it about fascism?
No. I mean, maybe.
Oh.
The time period may suggest it. So, it's set in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So you probably have some, not fascist governments, but
proto-fascist governments.
Maybe, yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't really know what to define the the German Empire as, because they had an emperor, so dictator-ish, I guess.
Well,
I don't know.
For whatever reason, people who live with monarchs and emperors like to talk about them like they're not dictators, but they are. You know?
Yeah, they just they
ask,
got a hand-picked successor in the form of their child.
Yeah. Whoever plops out of their wife, or plops out of them. Women can be dictators too.
Yep. Okay.
That's a
well,
lesson for you.
I'm just gonna move on.
All you kids at home.
Anyway, we're following a archaeologist in this time period.
Oh,
going back to archaeology. This is my third time doing archaeologist.
Can I guess his name?
Yeah.
Or her name? Montana Williams.
No.
No.
His name is Dr. Rasputin Thompson.
Oh, okay. So before
he's
that
not
name
the
went out of
Rasputin,
style.
but I just like the name.
Yeah,
but he's gonna go for
it's a good
Raz.
name.
Go as Raz for short, or Dr. Thompson. No.
Yeah.
Rasputin's not something they're gonna call him very often.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Only his mom will call him that.
He's an archaeologist in his 30s. He's lived his entire life traveling. His father was an American archaeologist, his mother was a Russian archaeologist, and he's traveled the world all his life. So, he's never stayed in one place. He's always been moving. He's been studying. And he's a kind and funny person. Always finds the silly things in life, even in very serious situations. And is a very curious person. Cares about the pursuit of knowledge and stuff. Never married, as he could never stay in one place. Got a bit of the wanderlust.
Yeah.
Anyway, our pilot starts with Dr. Rasputin in a library in Rome doing research on the tomb of Alexander the Great. He finds a myth detailing that, just to clarify, the tomb of Alexander the Great has not been found. I think they recently found it in this year in 2021, but as of this point, it's not been found. And I'm not sure if the 2021 discovery is actually the tomb of Alexander the Great. They just found a tomb in a place that I'm not going to tell you yet because I'm using that in my story.
With a dead 15-year-old in it.
Yeah, he was probably 15. So.
Yeah, that's when he died. When he was 15, he had no kids. Right? He didn't.
I think he might have been a little older than that, but I don't know.
He started conquering the world when he was 15, and he finished when he was 18, I think. I had a teacher in high school who was absolutely fucking obsessed with Alexander the Great. Would talk about Alexander the Great all the time.
The myth that he finds about Alexander the Great is that his sword was the power. The sword is some mythical object that allowed him to win every battle. That's why Alexander the Great was such a great conqueror in this myth that he finds in the report by one of Alexander's commanders. And in it mentions where he died, which was in Babylon. And so he reads this and he's like, I got to go to Babylon because he found this old report in a library in Rome, and he's like, oh my God, I'm gonna see if I can find his tomb in Babylon. But just as he reads this, it comes to this epiphany. In comes Dr. Jan Rommel, his rival, the German archaeologist, chauvinist, intellectual, and hedonist who works for the German government.
Is that on his business card?
Yes, that's all that it says. Maybe we could do that. I kind of want it to be a funny show.
Yeah.
But so his entrance is a gun pressed up against our Dr. Thompson's head. And he's like, give me the scroll, Thompson. He's like, no, I need it because, it belongs in a museum.
Yeah, something like that. It belongs in a British museum, not with the culture that it belongs to. It belongs to us, me, in a museum that I'll get paid for.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what he says.
And Jan with the gun obviously is like, no, and takes the map and runs away. He's got some like German, like goons with him as well. So we got some fodder that our Dr. Thompson can try to deal with. He's not much of a fighter, Dr. Thompson, but
but he's smart.
He is smart, so he can come up with ways to get around guards and knock them out using bookshelves or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just like little funny ways to get rid of people.
He says, your shoe's untied, and he looks down and he socks him in the jaw, and it doesn't do anything because he's a weakling. And he's like, what's that? The guy looks behind him and he runs away. Yep. Like a scared child.
That is our Dr. Thompson. Anyway, it ends with Jan escaping, on a boat or something, like on some sort of motorized boat thing.
Yeah.
And Rasputin's like, no, I need that. Oh. But he's like, I know it's in Babylon, so at least I remember that. So Raz decides he needs to go to Babylon. He's currently working as a visiting professor at the University of Rome. But he's on a contract, so he has to ask to leave for his trip. And he also needs funds, so he wants the university to fund his trip. His archaeological expedition. And it's kind of clear that the university and him aren't on greatest terms because he goes on these trips a lot and doesn't really teach classes.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right, Raz, if you want to do this, you're going to need to take a student researcher with you because we need you to teach someone some of this stuff because you haven't been teaching for years. You just go on trips.
Yeah. You don't even live in Rome. You don't even have a house here. You just sleep in your office. Mate, you're only here for like 2 days out of every month. We don't see you. We're not paying for any more unless you start teaching someone something.
Yeah, right? They're like, we will put you on a year contract, and you've been here for only 2 months. Only 2 months out of this whole year you've only been here for. I was on trips. Yeah. Anyway, he puts out like a notice to see who wants to go, and no student knows him because he has never actually taught a class at this university. So only one student offers to go. And her name is Natalie Chapman. She's a British student, incredibly smart child prodigy, an orphan. And she's 16.
A student of?
Archaeology.
I thought it would be funny if she was like, she just showed up. She was like, I am a genius. I'm a child prodigy. I'm getting my master's in poetry right now.
No.
But, I'll come along with you. It sounds fun.
Oh, maybe that would be funny to put her in like a different subject. But I'm kind of setting her up to be like, to be really good at archaeology. So, and I like this relationship because one of the best relationships I think in like narratives is the father-daughter but not blood-related relationship. Mm-hmm. Where, like somebody just takes somebody else in and sort of becomes their father figure. As you can tell by my last story with the Ballad of Katie.
I know you're a fan of The Last of Us. I know.
Yeah, so I think that's a very nice relationship. And our Natalie Chapman here, Nat, she's an orphan. She's very smart, but she doesn't have a family. And then we've got Raz, who also doesn't have a family and travels all the time. So you got two people with no families. One who can't make connections with people because he's always moving, and the other just doesn't have any connections with people. So
yeah, maybe she's a bit neuroatypical. She's but it's.
I have her down as headstrong with no sense of humor at first. She's socially guarded, a recluse, and very blunt. So she's an introvert.
Maybe she's got a touch of the Asperger's syndrome. You know?
Maybe. I don't know.
Trying to make her character more inclusive. Your character. I'm just adding.
See, I want her to develop into a very charismatic person, though.
Okay.
Because Rasputin is very charismatic. He's like a very funny, nice person. And I want Natalie to start off as not at all charismatic and to eventually, get some of those social attributes. For the spin-offs, it's important.
You gotta have the spin-offs, the comic books, the video games, the podcasts.
Anyway.
The narrative. Yeah.
We got it. There's going to be a lot of stuff. Raz and Natalie are now the student-professor team in this archaeological venture. So that's the pilot. Season 1, there's 2 seasons, and possibly spin-offs. Season 1, they go to Babylon first. And this is where they, they're going to run into the Germans. Do have some nice, like, Indiana Jones style fighting. Natalie Chapman's going to be a kind of a proficient fighter. It's going to be revealed that she, since she didn't have many friends, she did a lot of, like, extracurricular stuff. And so she knows all these fighting moves, and she's a very good archer and stuff like that, She got a lot of random skills.
Maybe she was, like, because you said she was a prodigy, and an orphan, right? So maybe she like, in the orphanage, she was, like, displaying, like, really high levels of, like, intellect and stuff, and so she was adopted by, like, this boarding school situation.
Yeah.
So she lived at the school year-round, and they, had horses and archery and shooting and all this stuff on campus.
And she got to do more of that because she was there year-round. She didn't go home for the summer or anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Harry Potter when he has to stay over the winter because he doesn't want to go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except, like, she does productive things rather than just, like, mope.
To mope and, get your friends killed.
Yeah.
That's what Harry Potter does.
Yeah.
This is 2 things. Get Robert Pattinson killed.
And Rasputin in the fights, he's sort of like a jack of all trades. He's not really great at anything, but he can do most things. Yeah. And so in Babylon, we're going to get introduced to not only, fighting with the Germans, but the Americans come into the fold. And we have the American archaeologist / U.S. agent, Betty Kanan. She's this devious, manipulative Brooklyn archaeologist who's very extremely patriotic and a high-functioning sociopath. Okay. So now we've got, the 3 people trying to get this sword, which is the Germans with Jan Rommel, the German archaeologist,
kind of
chauvinist, bad guy, typical, villainous person. And we have Betty, who's the American. She's bad. Card. She's also bad, in respect to our protagonist. But she's not, like, straight up evil. She's not going to be. They're not going to be trying to murder them. They just want to get there before them. And it's clear that the Americans and the Germans are the ones that are fighting more than those two. Because we got our 2 rogue agents, and we got the 2 governments that are obviously button heads.
Yeah, and maybe Betty and Raz have, like, some sort of history together, right? I don't know if you have that down. But if he's, like, traveling the world all the time, maybe he was, like, we could just allude to it.
Maybe they in the past, like, he was in love with her, but she just rejected him, or maybe she, like,
because she's a sociopath.
Yeah. And it could be a recurring joke that he's very easily manipulated by her, and Natalie's like, "Come on, like." Raz, she's obviously trying to use you. She's literally got
a knife.
She's going to kill you. She's going to trap you, or she's going to steal the notes or whatever.
Yeah, and he's like, "No, she's changed, bro.
Yeah,
we're cool. We're Americans. We get each other. It's different."
Well, he's nice. He doesn't really consider himself an American because he's never really lived anywhere long enough. His dad's American and his mother's Russian, so I guess he has citizenship in both, right? But
Yeah.
But he doesn't really consider himself either. He's kind of a, world traveler. He knows so many languages. He's a citizen of the world, if you may.
He's got to have a weird accent. You got to cast someone with a weird, unplaceable accent.
Interesting.
We'll
I had it down that he studied in England, so I assumed he had a British accent. But I'm kind of up for whatever, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting if he has like this weird, unplaceable accent that's like, some of the words he says are British, some are like Italian, some of it is American pronunciation. Yeah. And then, you get everyone else who has a specific accent for their area.
I think what we need is someone with a British accent that's faking an American accent, so we've got that weird sort of morph thing.
We'll get Tom Holland.
Oh, I was thinking Cillian Murphy because he fits the age range.
Okay,
and I like Cillian Murphy a lot.
We'll get Cillian Murphy to do an American accent, but an American doing a German accent, right? So we'll have 3 layers, and that way it'll make it weird.
It needs to just be like a strange medley of English. It has to be English because that's such a TV show. Is set for an American audience. But I like to think that we wouldn't just have everyone speak English. We'd have subtitles for when they're, when they're in Egypt or whatever, or they're in Babylon in this case. They'll speak Arabic, and we'll have subtitles, so I can have some authenticity. There we go.
Authenticity. Yeah, because that always annoys me when there's it's a show, it's set, it's in Russia, and it's got an American character, and all of the Russian characters just speak English for no reason.
Yeah.
Even when they're talking about the American character to each other, they still speak English for some reason. It's weird.
Yeah, and they do it in a thick Russian accent, so they're Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so they're in Babylon, and they're gonna go to the place where he died, which was, I believe he drank poison or something, so it was some, hall somewhere. Yeah. And we're gonna find some secret nook and find this super, ruined and old journal, which is from one of Alexander the Great's servants. And it's hey, the dude died and stuff. His general's gonna take him to Memphis to be buried. And he's like, oh, we have to go to Memphis now. And so, we have a Indiana Jones map sequence, little red lines.
Yeah, and they get on a plane and they fly all the way
Memphis,
to
Egypt.
Memphis,
Egypt.
In
Tennessee.
Idaho, is it?
No, it's
Tennessee.
Idaho. Are you an American?
Barely.
Memphis, Egypt.
Yeah.
And they're gonna get there, and this is true, by the way. In the lore, it's that he was buried originally in Memphis, Egypt, and then they moved him. So they're gonna get to Memphis, Egypt, and they're gonna find an empty tomb. And in a counter Indiana Jones move, they're, instead of being locked in the tomb by the Germans, they're gonna lock the Germans and the Americans in the tomb as they run away. So we're gonna have Natalie
smart.
Raz lock them in, because they get there first and they understand how the tomb works. It's some old booby-trapped
ancient
thing with a puzzle that opens it, and Raz is gonna push some lever, and Natalie's gonna push something else, and it's gonna lock the tomb in, so the puzzle can't be solved. So the Germans and Americans are gonna have to blow their way out or something.
Yeah.
But they're in there, fighting because they don't like each other.
Maybe it's. I don't know how the actual thing is in history, but I think it'd be cool if it was an underground temple tomb thing.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know what it's like in life, but.
And they're as they're leaving, Raz is just it's fine. Betty's down there. She'll get out. And just to be funny, what's her name? What's the
Natalie?
Natalie, kicks a rock, and the underground temple just starts filling with sand slowly. They're oh shit, we really gotta move. Yeah,
there's all these weird booby traps everywhere. Just by moving a rock, the place starts filling with sand.
Yeah.
All right, so they're gonna get to Alexandria, because in the tomb of Memphis, I don't think I said this, they're gonna be oh shit, they moved the body to Alexandria. And Raz would be like, why didn't I think about that at first? Why wouldn't he be in the city that he named after himself? Though he did name like a bunch, but that was the most famous one. Alexandria. Yeah. The one in Egypt. So they go to Alexandria, and this is the end of the first season. They're going to find the tomb. Just Raz and Natalie, because the other people are trapped. They're way behind. They're going to get in, solve some puzzles, classic tomb stuff. And they're going to get there, and the sword's gone. They'll find, the body of Alexander the Great, but the sword's gone. And they're going to find some weird traces, and they're going to find some old, traces of Mongolians being in there. I'm like, what?
Ooh.
So...
Like Mongolian, like a skeleton in Mongolian armor. That'd be cool.
And they're going to be like, well, that's so strange. And then he's, going through the Mongolian stuff. And he's like, this armor actually dates back to the period of Genghis Khan. And so, season ends. Season 2 is about how they realize, or they think, that Genghis Khan found Alexander the Great's tomb and took the sword. And that's how he did so well when he was conquering and stuff.
Yeah.
And that is all about trying to find the tomb of Genghis Khan, which still hasn't been found today, so...
And then end of season 2, we find out that, or we figure out that the sword that Alexander the Great used is actually also the Spear of Destiny, which is the spear that pierced Jesus Christ's side when he was on the
all right, that's going a
cross.
little bit much, don't you think?
And then Hitler gets his hands on it, and that's how he almost takes over the world.
Okay, I could maybe do the Jesus thing, but that's difficult because Alexander the Great's before Jesus, and Genghis Khan's after Jesus.
Yeah.
So that means the Romans need to find it. So, okay, we could do this then. Season 2, instead of being about Genghis Khan, is about Caesar, because Caesar visited the tomb of Alexander the Great. And so that's why Caesar did well and stuff, because he had the sword. And then you could say, in the Senate, he didn't have his sword on him, so that's why he died. And then Octavius had it, and, it was passed down from Roman emperor to Roman emperor. And then when Rome was sacked or whatever, it was lost. And so we have this big trail of, research, and eventually he finds out that Genghis Khan got it. Because I want season 2 to be set in, the East, in Mongolia and China, as he tries to find the tomb of Genghis Khan. And eventually they'll find it. And in this time period, we're in, the early 1900s, we're going to be dealing with the Japanese as well, because they're in China at this point. So not only do we got the Germans, the Americans chasing after this thing, now we got the Japanese too. So we got a bunch of crazed archaeological teams trying to find this sword. Because war is approaching, obviously. And I want it to end with them finding the tomb, but realizing that the sword is very important. So, and that could be chaotic for the world. So like what Genghis Khan's original guard did to hide it, they're going to trample over the tomb with horses. So what they did was they buried him in the plain, supposedly, and then trampled over it with horses to hide any, tons of horses to hide any markings of where, they got it. And they also killed everyone that saw it, but they're not going to kill Natalie. He's not going to kill Natalie and then kill himself. That'd be pretty messed up.
That would be weird. That'd be a weird way to end this comedy.
But anyway, they hide the tomb, so no one can get it. And that's the end of my show. So they spent all this time trying to find this object, but they realized it's better off buried. He's going to have some cool line where he's like, some history is better off forgotten.
Some history belongs to the dead.
Roll credits. Cool song. What's your cool song?
That one song from Me Might Be Giants about Constantinople. Istanbul, Constantinople, it's Istanbul. And
that's kind of fun, I like that.
A long time gone, Constantinople, but Constantinople get the works. That's nobody's business but the turf. That one, do that one, that'd be fun.
And then from here, we could go to fucking spin-off shows, where we got Natalie as an older archaeologist. There's a lot of marketability here, Netflix.
Yeah, so many sweet action figures, lunchboxes.
Yep.
Great. I think it would also be cool if in the Tomb of Alexandria they find like it's all booby-trapped and everything.
Yeah.
And because I think we need to work the Gordian knot into this somehow, because the Gordian knot's cool, I think.
Okay.
You know?
So what do you want to do?
Knot is, I think it would be cool if the Gordian knot was like there, or there was a similarly tied Gordian knot there, you know, holding the thing together, and it's like implied that you should cut it in order to get in, because that's what Alexander the Great did, right?
Yeah.
But Raz and Natalie figure out, using their deductive reasoning and archaeological knowledge together, that like if you cut it, this entire place starts coming down, you know?
Oh, I see. Gordian knot, by the way, is
So-
a complicated knot that Alexander the Great just cut to solve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was it was in the city of Gordia, whatever, and
It's
it
like
was
a
like
proverb for like solving things with like, you know, decisive
violence.
action. Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
guess violence works too, but I was thinking decisive
Also,
action.
he also slices it in half, so I guess it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But it's also like only his sword could cut it, because the sword's so important, right?
Mhm.
So, like, you know, that's maybe part of it. I don't know. But there's like a Gordian knot in the temple where he is buried, and our characters like get out, figure out the sword's not there. It was taken by Caesar or Genghis Khan, either or. We'll figure it out later. And they escape. And when the Germans get there and the Americans get there around the same time, Betty just slices it in half because she knows the history. She's like,
Yeah.
this is what
Oh, she
Alexander
probably
the
thinks
Great
she's
did.
so smart too. She's like, boom.
Yeah.
We gotta cut it.
And then, right after she cuts it, it just starts collapsing, and she's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, we could have a
But I
scene
think
before that where Raz sees the knot, or Natalie sees it, and she thinks she's smart. She's like, "Oh, we cut it," and Raz is like, "Wait, I've been in a lot of tombs. Not everything's
Yeah.
as simple." And he like looks around. He like, instead of just immediately thinking, "Oh, I'm smart. I'm gonna cut the knot because that's what happened in history." He like looks at what it's connected to and sees that it's a trap.
And you'd be like, Alexander the Great would never have the Gordian. Like, he took that honor of slicing the Gordian knot. He would never equate anyone else to his, capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't want you to cut the knot because that's his thing. You know, he'll kill you if you try and take his stuff, right? Because Alexander the Great, notorious narcissist.
He was young,
You know?
so he's probably just
Yeah. He was young and rich, and he was taught by Plato, I think. Was
Yeah.
it Plato or Aristotle?
Aristotle.
Yeah. Maybe we could maybe that's where he gets his notes originally, like the first episode.
Oh, he could be
He's,
in
like,
Greece
pouring through-
instead. See, I'm not really stuck with
Yeah.
the whole Italy thing because, it doesn't really matter for the story. So he could be in Greece at the University of Athens. I don't know.
Athens. Yeah.
It's probably University of Athens.
And he's like, there's been a recent recently unearthed new things from Aristotle's private library, and he's pouring over it because he's one of the foremost guys on
In the world of archaeology.
ancient European history, right?
He's like the most, we'll say he's the most like illustrious freelance archaeologist who's not working for like a government, is what I mean by that.
Yeah, he's the best private agent
Mm-hmm.
for archaeology. He's found the most treasures. So.
Yeah.
And I like the show. I would watch this. Do you have a title picked out?
Did I have a title? That's the question. It's a good question.
Okay. While you find the title, I'm gonna tell you about how I think that, like, when they discover the history of the sword, like each time they find out a new chapter of the sword, we go to like a cool animated like section of the show where we like show how the sword gets there. We can have like an animated version of them carrying Alexander the Great all across like miles and miles of deserts. He's got this huge like long, what's that called? Caravan of people, all like carrying his body and like all his wealth and stuff. to put it in the tomb in Alexandria, and then like the Khans showing up, being like, "What's up? It's ours now." The Mongolians.
Well, but based on the way we changed the story, though, so the Mongolians would have to steal it from the Romans at some point.
We'll take it from the Romans after the fall of Rome.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You could do
well,
that.
I don't know if there's enough
sword
time in between there, because the Mongolians don't show up till much later, till Europe's fully medieval. I don't know.
Well,
We'd have to give it to someone for a little bit, and then, you know, well, we could say it's lost after the fall of the Roman Empire, and it's like in the eastern, you know,
it's in Constantinople.
Deserts. Yeah, well, you could say like, because it has to be, can't be in Constantinople, because the Mongolians never take that city.
Yeah, but okay, it's in.
So you gotta say like one of the
away.
Eastern Roman emperors like went out on a journey with the sword, and like died in the desert wastes from like being too hot or something,
or entrusted it to like a like a parish or a monastery.
Yeah.
That the Mongolians then sacked like hundreds of years later.
Yeah, and that's how he got the sword. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. There we go.
I still don't have a title. I'll look.
But we should have one thing, and we should have at least some of it in Constantinople, in Istanbul.
Yeah.
Show, because we got the ending.
Well, at this point, it's Istanbul, because we still have the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I believe Egypt, or no, Egypt's not. Egypt's part of the British Empire at this point. So, I don't know. It'd be weird. It'd be really weird in the Middle East situation, because you got a lot of different colonial powers in there, plus the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, and there's our guy just trying not to get murdered.
Mm-hmm. Just avoiding governments.
Trying to find some golds. Find some treasures. All right. Well, I dig it. Well, let's call it the Journey of the Sword.
Journey of the Sword.
Yeah.
It's a lame name.
It is.
I'm sure I'll come up with something in post. Whenever you see in post, that's the title that I came up with.
Okay.
It'll probably be clever and related to Alexander the Great, so when you see it...
The Power of Alexandria.
No, it's lame, Charlie. Stop it.
Alright, well, thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, has been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, Jacob Cloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, give us a like, subscribe, follow. You can find us wherever good podcasts are sold, or even where bad podcasts are sold, probably.
Yeah.
Goodbye, and we love you.